Just giving a minute or two for the participants to join. So if you're on the replay, I would recommend that you give this, you forward until about 5 minutes, 4.5, 5 minutes, have a look, see if we've started the discussion yet, because it always takes a little while for the people to join and to get on and for me to see if I've not admitted somebody, etc. So before we get into the juice, you can just forward straight to that. Hello, hello, everybody. Hello. Oh, it's so nice to see you all again. I'm just giving a minute for people to join in. And if anybody wants to unmute and say hi, you're welcome to, just while we get everybody in.
Hi, it's Candace.
Hi, Candace.
Hi, I'm happy to be here. I just wanted to let you know I'll have to leave for a bit, but I will be back.
It's so lovely to have you here.
Yeah.
And you can catch the replay.
Okay.
Thank you for being here, Candace.
Yeah.
How is everybody doing?
Good, thank you.
Awesome. That's good to hear. For those of you that were here yesterday, anything that you want to share, something that landed or anything that came up, or how you guys doing since yesterday? Oh, good to hear. Okay, I'm going to pretty much get started. I'm really so grateful that you're all here and that we get to do this again. It's been quite a ride, and today we're talking all about bodies and how beautiful and amazing our bodies are. And I'm really, really excited because it's something I'm really passionate about. So I'm going to hop in. There's people going to join along the way, but let's get started. Back to sharing screen. I know there was some issues with the recording with regards to where the camera, with the videos, because I love seeing your faces when I'm talking. So I do want it on, but I'm going to try and move what I see now. You guys are all on this side so that you won't be on the slides on the writing if you do watch the replay. Or when you do watch it, you can also adjust the screens. I love seeing you guys' faces while I'm talking. It really gives me direction if I'm a slow down or go for like move on or what's going on. But for yourselves, you can always make the screen, take the little camera pictures away so that you can see just the PDF if that helps. But I'm really excited that you guys are here. The structure is pretty much the same as yesterday, except the one thing I forgot to add here is that I will be adding an announcement at the end, but otherwise the structure is the same. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am really so thrilled that you guys are here. And I must be honest, just before, like at 5 past 5, I think it was, I redid all my slides. I was like, no, this is just so much information and it's like a lecture, and I wanted to be participating and I wanted to be sharing with you guys. So my slides, I don't know off by heart like I did, but I feel more aligned with the way it's been structured now. I again want to ask you all to just take a moment, put your hand on your heart if you're comfortable with it, and thank yourself for being here. And if you don't know which self, you can do it to the body, your spirit, your mind, whichever you want to. But just to take a moment and realize that you being here shows commitment to your growth, to your expansion, to your awareness of yourself. And it's such a beautiful journey. So it's really an honor to be here with you all and thanking ourselves to be here. I did ask just before we started with the slides if there were any takeaways or revelations from yesterday. I'd love to hear if there's anything that stood out to you, because what I often find when we're a group, there's something that we share and it triggers a discussion with the others, and it solidifies that understanding a bit more and deeper inside of us, which is such a great experience to have. So if there's anything, please do share. I've lost the chat box. Okay, so there's nothing in the chat. So again, we're going to start with our intention. And what is an intention? An intention is where we get to decide what we want to get out of this. So we're not passive, we're not just listening, but we get to decide what do we want to get out of our experience here tonight. So I want you again to set your intention, please. It helps you to focus on the important things that you want to get out of your training here. So feel free to share them. I absolutely loved reading them yesterday on the chats. So you can share them on the chats. If you don't feel comfortable, there's no pressure. It's completely personal. So you can share them with yourself. You can share them in your journal. You can share them on the chats. But I'd love for you to take a moment to just set your intention for what do you want out of the presentation this evening or this morning for you in the States. Connection. Oh, I love that. That connection, Heather, it's the theme of my talk about the body, because like I've written here on the screen, the ultimate, sexiest, most fun, deeply intimate relationship that we desire. I'm a relationship therapist and coach. I've been working with couples for 10 plus years. And what we don't realize is that it starts with our body. We spend so much time trying to, 99% of the couples that come and see me is for communication skills. We want facts, we want reasons, we want to be able to persuade. It's all here. But everything we do is for the feeling. We work hard because we want to enjoy freedom from the money, or we, do these things because we want to enjoy time and holiday with our kids. It's all about the enjoyment, the feeling that we're after. So that connection.
I just want to add love. I just want to add the word love.
Beautiful. Thank you, Candace. Love is so important. It's a very important thing to add. So for me, for tonight, and this is, when I set my intention at the end, and then I realized I want to rewrite my script, because my intention isn't to teach you. My intention is to bring you home. I want to help you guys to recognize this incredible, phenomenal body that each of you have. It's not some people are blessed with a good body and others not. There's an intimate romance that's so unique and so special to you that gets to be lived out in our bodies. And so tonight's talking and exploring, and it's going to be facts, but it's also going to be hopefully a resonance that brings you back home into this space within you. Shelley saying being at peace and satisfied. Cindy saying being who we are designed to be. Oh, Ilza saying, love the spirits having a human experience. Exactly. All of those things. Oh, I really feel emotional being here tonight, because it's such a beautiful space that we get to go to. And it's a beautiful relationship we start to connect to when we have these conversations and allow ourselves to go there. So first, starting with my story, I felt like a hypocrite. Like I have a very good friend and mentor last year, and last year I had severe burnout. My kids they're now 6 and 7, but my son was incredibly ill when he was born, and they both struggled to sleep. And it was just, I probably had about 6 years or 5 years that I literally lived off. If I had 4 hours in a row sleep, I would feel like a rock star. I thought that's amazing. So balancing my practice, feeling that my work is really important. I can't not be there, and trying to like see if my kids are okay. My son was in hospital so often, and I just lost track of my body, and I lost track of me, and I lost track of who I am. And so last year I was chatting to a friend, and I was saying, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm such a hypocrite. I'm teaching people about their bodies, and I've just been so disconnected, and I'm surviving. And she looked at me and she said, I never took you as a selfish person. It was like oh, ouch. Okay, great. Point taken. And to realize that through that whole experience, because before that, my therapy practice was up here. I knew every modality basically that you get for couples. I still do. And I've got so many facts and thoughts, but I didn't bring it down. And when my own body was giving in, when my own body was struggling, when I was in pain and having flare-ups and inflammation, and I picked up a ton of weight and all these things, it became this awakening of there's more to me. There's more to this whole experience. And since then, my practice and with myself and with my clients, everything has just had this ripple effect, and it's been so beautiful. And one of the things that's really beautiful is that cells replenish and renew. So even, the damage we do every few months, they're replenishing. There are different parts of your body, like they take longer, or other parts take slower, but we get to give new commands through our emotional connection and our love for our body that creates new cells. Otherwise, they go with the same commands of the previous cells. But when we start healing ourselves and healing our emotions, we get to create brand new cells. And I feel like for me, that's like the ultimate grace, like this forgiveness for what we've done and how we've treated our body. And it gets to renew cell by cell. And there's trillions of them. We couldn't even count them. And so I went from shame to intimacy, from like this embarrassment and I can't believe I'm a hypocrite and I'm like doing this, to like this completely enamored, beautiful space of realizing what my body is and what it hosts. And, nothing can replace the lessons I've learned in that time. Lucia says, loving myself again and finding happiness. Oh, you're in the right place. I really believe that this can help. So growing up as children, this is like no offense to parents or anything like that, but growing up as children, our emotions were judged. You get good emotions, bad emotions. If you cry, it was instant like distraction. Wait, here's a sweet. Or get over it, stop crying. It's not so bad. We didn't get to process our feelings. And I believe that's a very big part of us believing emotions are bad or scary. Because if we got to feel them as kids, A, we'd realize they pass. And B, we'd feel safe because the adult around us doesn't feel intimidated by our feelings. As a parent myself, I've struggled with this. It's been like you want to be like, but it's not a big deal, or just get over it, or, we don't have time now, we're going to be late. But to be able to allow them to have their feelings doesn't mean giving into their feelings. So if crying for the sweet doesn't mean buying them the sweet because you don't want them to be scared of their feelings. It means realizing it's just an emotion and it's going to pass. You really, really want it. It's really hard for you right now. And that's okay. Doesn't mean I'm going to buy it, but it does mean you're okay with your feelings and I'm going to have a safe space for you. So, sorry, I've moved the camera because I feel like I'm looking sideways at you guys, but I don't want to block the camera view that you guys see when you watch the recording. Emotions are guides. Emotions are the GPS coordinate systems we've been given by God to steer us through our desires of our lives. We get taught, unfortunately, completely the reverse. We get taught sacrifice is good. Giving up everything that's pleasurable is a good martyr. You're being very humble and, A-okay. And things that feel good, pleasure is bad, it's evil. And it's completely opposite. Emotions are our guides. I want more of this. I like this. This is good. We have an abundant universe and an abundant God that's not intimidated by our requests. Emotions give value to our experiences. Two people can go through the exact same thing. For the one person, it could be, let's say, for example, flying. It could be your 100th time you go flying every month. And for the other person, the first time on a plane, that excitement, that anticipation, that shock, that experience creates a memorable event. Somebody that flies weekly gets on the plane, puts on the caps, hopes they fall asleep as soon as possible because they don't want to remember it so they can get off on the other side and get to where they're going. Our emotions give value to our experiences. And that's why I love being present and gratitude, because it brings us back to the present and gives value to this experience and not just the perceived value we're going to get when we get there someday. For me, I feel like the bodies are the orchestra that plays the music of our composer, of God. It's our emotional GPS. So it's this beautiful machinery, this incredible, intricate thing that gets to talk to us and resonate with us. Unfortunately, though, our bodies have been given such a bad rap. Emotions and bodies, like everything up here, good grades, fantastic, but if you're, the way you look gets judged horrifically, and the way you feel. I feel that a big part of the difference between men and women in society is because women get taught from a young age they're allowed to be emotional, but they're not allowed to be angry or sensual. And men get taught you're not allowed any emotions except anger or being sexual. If you look at teenagers, it would be A-okay to have those feelings, or, the guys would spur them on. But if a guy had a cry because of poor grades, he'd be ostracized. He would be laughed at. Girl cries, oh, it's okay, sweetie. So we get taught from a young age what feelings are okay, which ones aren't, which ones you're allowed to have, which ones you're not. And it disconnects us from this inner compass. Emotions are energy in motion. So we have this feeling, we have this sensation. I often think of how, if you look at antelope, like I grew up in the bush, we had lions and all the other things. And when you look at antelope, if they get chased by a lion, they either get eaten or they make it and somebody else gets eaten. But afterwards they shake, which is where TRE, trauma release exercises, comes from. But they shake, 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 and then they're done. They go and eat the grass. They carry on, even if, it was one of their own herd lying there, they keep going. They've got rid of the energy. They shook it out. And what we tend to do is, it's like we're living with one foot on the gas and one foot on the brakes. We have these traumatic experiences, these feelings that come up, these events that happen. And then, hi, how are you? No, I'm fine, thanks. No, it's all good. Meantime, inside, it's raging, but we swallow it, we keep it in. Women especially, because we're not allowed to show anger. So stuck emotions are often the stuck energy, the sensation, the body work that we do, and we'll do some of it tonight, but not go so deep because it can get too deep that I can contain in a group like this. But when we start having conversations with parts of our bodies, it's incredible to hear the history, repressed memories, the feelings that come up from long ago that people just suddenly get in touch with. So it's been stuck there. And once we have that conversation, it moves and it's gone. Dis-ease, disease. I'm not saying all diseases are from dis-ease, but I have found that there's so much correlation to stress and stuck emotions into our illnesses that we have. Stress is one of the worst killers that we have, because it's that constant driving with one foot on the petrol, one foot gas, and one foot on the brakes, and burning out our systems because we're not releasing those emotions. We're not moving that energy. This is a whole talk, but it's literally that emotions change the peptides in our body. So it makes a chemical change in our body. It's not just an emotion that we're feeling, it's an actual chemical change. Sorry. Sorry, I'm shaking off my own cold, and so I've got a bit of a cough. I had quite a laugh at myself joining the call where we're talking about our bodies and listening to our bodies, and here I'm taking painkillers just before we have the talk so that I can not listen to my body and have this talk, but I felt that every now and then it's okay. So our emotions change the chemistry of every cell in your body and sends vibrations. This part of Joe Dispenza we'll talk about if there's time later. It's something I've added on afterwards. The reason I'm bringing this up is because stress in our bodies takes over. We don't realize the effect of our nervous system response. I'm not going to go into all the, parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system and, all the different technical terms for it. But basically, when we're in a stressed situation, when there's perceived stress or real threat, our limbic system kicks in. Our brain thinks we're under attack, life or death. And what we tend to do is we fight, getting prepared to fight it off, flee, run away, freeze, which is, hope that if I freeze and play dead sort of thing, the lion will run past me and grab somebody else. And then the last one is fawn. Fawn is our people pleasing. It's something that we could learn from a young age, that if I make myself useful enough to my parent, if there's not a safe environment growing up and we become people pleasers and fawn, we try and make ourselves useful, because if we're useful, our parents will grab us if a lion comes, is basically the primitive reasoning behind fawning. So we have these responses to stress. And then your vagus nerve, which I spelled wrong, I'm so sorry, I spelled the vagus, I wrote there wrong. It's V-A-G-U-S, but the vagus nerve is basically your brakes. It's to try and bring you back to equilibrium. Because when you're stressed out, your body's getting right to flight, all the blood and flow and the energy and the attention and the oxygen, everything gets adapted to get you out of that stressful environment. Whether it's about a deadline, whether it's about an argument with your spouse, whether it's about a real lion that's chasing you, your brain responds the same way. And that's why many times you might have noticed in an argument with your spouse, one of you is under attack, and the other one is like playing dead, like they look like they're not even present, or they're running away, fleeing. We go into these responses to try and survive. And when our body is in survival mode, there is no, it's trying to stay alive, so there's no connection. Like that's not a priority. When you're running away from a lion, spotting the butterflies and the waterfalls and the beautiful flowers is going to get you killed. So it's focused on, what do I do to stay alive? And so when we're in that, it takes a lot of energy and a lot of resources. And our vagus nerve is about getting us reconnected with our body, getting us back to equilibrium, sense of safety. And the reason I put this whole part in is because when the vagus nerve is activated, the heart rate is slowed down. Inflammatory responses are turned off, and hormonal responses of safety are released into the bloodstream. So it affects your hormones, your blood flow, your heart rate, your inflammation, all of those things, which I see so many people, like with my health issues, going to the doctor, seeing the rows and rows of people getting their blood tests. rows and rows of people at the doctor's office. Most of it, heart issues, inflammation, hormonal issues, all the things that are triggered by stress, of being too long in that stress mode. And for me, how I see it is, I've normally got some elastics. We're not supposed to just be in equilibrium all the time. Like, we're not supposed to be chilled out and mellow and never have stress. But what typically happens is we have a stressor and it passes and we get back. And we live, and we have a stressor, it passes, we get back. But what happens is when we don't get back, we have that stressor, if we have a traumatic childhood, or if there was a lot of discord growing up or criticism, things like that, we can stay stretched out. And it actually starts feeling uncomfortable when we get to that middle place, because we don't know this. This feels unfamiliar. So we start panicking about the state. So we create more chaos, or we get into situations where there's more chaos because we get familiar with that feeling. And so the vagus nerve needs to be reset. We need to start working it slowly but surely, bringing it back down to an equilibrium so that we can feel safe in this state again. And not, I think one of the biggest things that we struggle with is we think, I want to go to therapy or I want to get help so I never feel like this again. One of the things that my clients often tell me in the first 2-3 weeks of working with them as a couple is, we're still fighting, but not as much. And when we do, we're over it so quickly. It doesn't last those hours or days that it used to. We're starting to exercise their safety response with each other. There's a lot of emphasis on self-regulation, self-soothing, you know, whether it's with parenting and kids or whether it's with our own therapy, learning to self-regulate, learning to self-soothe. But I find co-regulation is so beautiful. So in relationships and with our children, that safe space, getting them to climb on our laps and being able to just hold them in that space is co-regulation. And I find when we start connecting with our bodies more, that becomes almost like a co-regulation. We can reparent ourselves. We can reconnect with ourselves. But if we have a partner, to be able to, for example, in couples instances, to be able to say to them, I'm freaking out right now and I don't want to talk because that's facts and that's going to be survival. I want to connect. Just hold me, or just stay in the room with me. If sometimes you feel like a porcupine and there's going to be quills and like, I don't want to touch you. It's just a bit dangerous right now. And just being in the same room with a person can really be helpful. And this affects our health in a big way. And so a lot of times when we're trying all these things and the positive affirmations and we want to connect with our body, we have to remember that there's our body's first response is, I want to stay alive. I don't have time for emotional breakdowns or for getting in touch with my feelings or for watching the beautiful sunset when I'm in survival mode. So we need to start working on practicing. And I've got a couple of exercises at the end that we can do, but exercising our nervous system response, our vagal response, so that we can feel safe with ourselves again, get regulated quicker. It affects our body and our digestion. I mean, if you think about it, pretty much the other thing that's not on here is, but I put it in the little brackets, is rest and digestion. So we've got fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and then the vagal response is rest and digest. Digestion doesn't happen in those other states. And that's why there's either, there's malnutrition, weight issues, all these things, is because when you're being attacked, your body can't waste energy digesting food. And some people just release the food and immediately, the metabolism's super fast, their body's just getting rid of it. Like, I can't store it, I've got to get rid of it. We're running away from a lion. And for the people in the freeze response, it just holds on to it. We'll keep this for later. We can't digest it now. So healing our nervous system has so many health impacts for all of us. Depressed people have low vagal tone, which is connected to less changes in facial expressions and monotone speech. So it's got a physical effect. Depression, just wanted to bring up some points, but it's not the topic of today. But all the feelings that we have are trying to tell us something. And for me, like tomorrow, we're going to be talking about mind. And most of the medication we give for depression is for serotonin, which is for your mind, your brain's ability to absorb the serotonin, to increase the uptake and the receptors and all the rest. But what they've realized is your gut produces 90% of your serotonin. And our gut and our brain in the uterus is one cell. It splits off. And so now they're even starting to argue, you know, whether your gut was your first brain or not. So there's a lot more in our bodies than what we're aware of. Our mind is phenomenal and amazing, but there's a very big correlation between what you eat, to how you look after yourself, how you speak to yourself, how you think about yourself, and depression and anxiety and so many other things. So I just added here for a lot of people, like I love meditation, but it's important that to know that if you are in fight or flight mode, like in active states, got to get out of here, or I'm so angry right now, meditation, calming you down is perfect. But if you're already in a freeze response, if you want to just lie on the couch and binge watch 100 shows, you don't want to get up in the morning, you don't have much, you know, mood for life, you don't really care much, like a lot of depression would be correlating with that freeze mode. But meditation isn't always very effective when you're in that freeze mode, because when you're in that freeze mode or you're already stuck, and it would be better to do something very light like yoga or walking. So even just going for a walk around and literally thinking, what do I see? What do I smell? Can I taste anything? Just bring your senses, bringing like an awareness. So we're not thinking while we're walking, like, I don't want to be here. Why am I here? I can't believe I'm walking around the block. But to move, and then while you're moving, to bring your senses in, because it brings you into the present moment. And generally, when we're in our minds, we're in the future or the past. And so bringing into the present, our body can see right now, actually, there's no lines. Now, I do have to pay rent at the end of the month, but right now, I don't have to pay rent. I'm actually safe. So it's bringing awareness to your safety of right now. This is also a thought on, like I said, I made all my slides just before we started at 5 o'clock because I redid all my other ones. So it's just little thrown in parts, but anger is a secondary emotion. Pretty much what this means is if you're driving on the highway and a car cuts you off and drives straight in front of you and you've got to swerve out the way, you might want to scream at that person. That scream, that anger, was to swerve out the way to protect you from the fear, because there was this fear, I'm going to die, or, you know, my kids, there's something's going to happen. There's that fear response, but that fear can paralyze you. So the anger comes in to protect you. And when we get taught we're not allowed to be angry, there's a difference between anger and aggression. Aggression is untamed anger. You know, freedom of expression, just allowing that anger to, you know, hurt people. That's not that's not anger. Oh, I'm sorry, Lucia. I'm so glad you're here. So anger being there to protect us, and when we suppress it, we're losing touch with ourselves. Basically, it's saying, I can't protect me. We lose trust in ourselves, we lose confidence, we get dependent, codependent on others because you feel scared. We get in bad relationships because we need somebody to make us safe. We don't feel safe with ourselves. So to understand that anger is trying to protect you. Anger and fear and the inner critic are three emotions that I hear so much condemnation for. And I feel like I don't want to go into people's posts and teach them on their own posts, but they're all trying to protect you. Anger is not always right. When I'm exhausted or hormonal, you know, I could be more on edge. My resources are limited, and so I'm snapping a bit easier. But to realize that when I'm responding with this anger, I'm trying to protect myself. And if I afterwards, in that moment of anger, it's struck a chord, it's going, but as soon as it's over, if you can recognize it, like, I've just been so angry, what was it trying to protect me from? There's usually a feeling: shame, sadness, disappointment, frustration, loneliness, guilt, worry, fear. And then when we look back at it, we can go, oh, okay, it was trying to protect me from that. Argument with your partner, what made me angry? I was scared they don't care about me. So let's have a conversation about that and not about, the milk that they forgot. The other emotions that I said that people seem to sabotage is the inner critic. The inner critic is this younger version of you that put on her big girl pants or whatever and try to protect you from a very young age from what it felt like judgment or from right or wrong. And because we don't listen to it, or because we don't recognize that it's still this little girl trying to protect us, we try and shut it up, we try and ignore it. And when we get to start having conversations with it, things shift. As soon as she feels heard, you heard me? You don't think so, but you listen to me? Okay, what do you think? We can have such beautiful conversations with these feelings because none of the feelings intentionally want to hurt us, even self-sabotage. Self-sabotage is often because we don't think we're ready. We don't believe we're capable. It's trying to protect you from that disappointment. But when we judge it, we separate ourselves from those feelings and we stop the conversation. How are you all doing? Great. This book was a really good book, but he says the world is increasingly designed to depress us. Happiness isn't very good for the economy because if we're happy with what we have, why would we need more? How do you sell an anti-aging moisturizer? You make somebody worry about aging. How do you get people to vote for a political party? You make them worry about immigration. How do you get them to buy insurance? By making them worry about everything. How do you get them to have plastic surgery? By highlighting their physical flaws. How do you get them to watch a TV show? By making them worrying about missing out. How do you get them to buy a new smartphone? By making them feel they're being left behind. To be calm becomes a kind of revolutionary act. To be happy with our own non-upgraded existence, to be comfortable with our messy human selves is not very good for the business. And I don't say this to be doom and gloom and all like, propaganda and all the rest. But when we start realizing that this is part of what we've been fed for so long, that we get to start standing up for, you know what? I'm more than enough. And then what I've noticed personally, like from my burnout recovery and that whole process, was the things I was forcing in, the deadlines I was trying to meet, the things that I was thinking, but I've got to do this, were so much worse quality than when I actually rested or went for a walk or had that long bath. Those things that I thought I don't really have time for, and the inspiration hit. I felt rejuvenated. I could work better. I showed up better. So it can actually, looking after yourself can be good for your economy too, but it's on your terms. You can't do happy, you can be happy. We are human beings, not human doings. That's not from him. That's something I wrote a while ago. I really love this quote, so much so that I've actually put it in twice. But if unresolved trauma can store itself in your muscles, fascia, organs, cells, and the rest of your physical body, and it does, so can joy, gratitude, abundance, love, and peace. Your body gets to also be a safe space. I'm going to quickly go forward and then I'm going to come back to this one. This is a microscopic picture of a cell. It was doing its rounds on Facebook a while ago. I don't know if you ever saw it, and I wish that the zoom on this did justice to it. But I'll go back to the picture again, but I wanted to give you a quick idea. This purple one there is the mitochondria, the battery of your cell. This is the most detailed model of a human cell to date, obtained using X-ray and nuclear magnetic resonance. The world is inside of us. This is only a small part of a single cell. Human somatic cells contain 80 to 2,000 mitochondria. So between 80 and 2,000 of those inside one cell. So to imagine how tiny a piece of a cell that is, because you can only see a little fraction of the mitochondria in here. We can guess that this image shows much less than 1/80th of a cell. This is only a 2D cross-sectional of a 3D cell. The immense complexity you're seeing is just one tiny part of a truly incredible machine of machines, a system of systems. It shows only the outer edge of the nucleus, which makes it difficult to fully appreciate the dynamic 3D structure of the genome as it functionally self-organizes. And then to remember there are over 30 trillion cells in your body that are highly organized, capable of rearranging themselves, processing information, healing, and doing everything else that a human can do. We tend to forget that it was humans that invented spaceships and cars and all these things that we have such awe at. When my computer like acts funny and I'm like, oh, then I get this new appreciation of like how intricate this machine has been made, but it was made by humans. We are the most ultimate amazing machine. This is an extra part that my dad sent to me, but each DNA carries 3 billion individual characters. To help understand that number, 1 million seconds takes 12 days. If you had to count them, 1 character per second. 1 million seconds, 12 days. 1 trillion seconds is 32 years. So to count the characters in one cell will take 96 years. And they've estimated, they haven't been able to fully count how many cells we actually have, but they estimated at about 76 trillion. And it replenishes and renews. Mega or terabytes are dwarfed by comparison. The body holds the universe within it. The heavens cannot measure God, yet he says the fullness of the Godhead, the deity body, dwells in Christ. And Christ came as an example of us, not for us. Sorry, like I said, I did this quick. We are God compatible. We hold the universe within us, and the music that our feelings play is not to hurt us or punish us, but to guide us, to give us the pleasure of experiencing life to its fullest. If we can take the judgment out of emotions, good or bad, like this is a good feeling, this is a bad feeling, out of that equation, if we can take pity out of the story, just remove ourselves from that situation and just experience the feelings, the sting is less and the experience gets to move on. I think my next one, I do want to, I put in a break, but I didn't, it's not yet. I want to quickly just take a break and just check in with all of you, because I just want you to notice how you're sitting, how your body's feeling, just reshuffle yourself if you're uncomfortable, just giving ourselves, there's a lot of space in our head right now, so I want to get us back into our bodies and just allow you to reconnect. Notice any sensations, notice if you're thirsty or hungry or anything like that. How are you all doing? Awesome. Oh, so glad. Now I'm going to show this again. I've written here, like the word that came into mind was our bodies are a pleasure palace. Like we're made for pleasure. We have all these senses. And one of the things that struck me the one day was looking at the fields. They're starting to get into spring here in South Africa, and it started a little bit early. Our weather's been a bit off, but the flowers have just been popping up in these amazing, intricate colors. And I'm saying to my kids, like, God could have so easily made all the flowers the same color. All the bugs look the same. There was no need to have all this intricacies, this ecosystem of different, there's certain flowers here that only bloom after there's been a fire, because that fire burns the crust of the seed, and then a mouse eats the like the other part of it, and then when the droppings come, then it can, grow. Like there's such intricate details into things that most people don't even notice. He wants to connect with us on a sensory pleasure experience. We're sensory beings. the cells replaced regularly was for an earlier chat. But the reason I have a picture of a cake there is because we generally are petrified of pleasure. And I can tell you with a fact, nobody eats the whole cake because of pleasure. You know, if I'm going to go after pleasure, I'm going to eat the whole cake, or I'm going to drink too much, I'm going to do this. If you're just experiencing the experience of pleasure, you'll know when to stop. Because the whole cake is not pleasurable. Maybe halfway through the slice, or maybe after 2 slices, depending on how hungry you are and how good the cake is, you're going to get to a place where you're like, oh, that was fabulous. The only reason we keep eating that cake is because we're fearing the next diet. Or like, when am I going to allow myself to have it again? We don't do it for pleasure. So generally, we've got this drive within us. We have to stay alive, and we need to make babies to keep, things going. But yet, we can have this drive, but it's pleasurable. Procreation is pleasurable to humans for most people. Usually, if there's something else, we can, seek help to make it pleasurable again. We're here to enjoy life. We've been given the senses, whether it's the delicious aroma of something, the taste of something, the touch, the smells, everything to enjoy, to, like I said, with the intricacies of animals and flowers and scents, and to avoid pain. So we can seek fulfillment as well. My mom was sharing the other day just of how, and I'm not going to do complete justice here, but how we can enjoy the mountains and love the view, but we'll dig deeper. Wait, there could be minerals, there could be crystals, there could be diamonds, and we'll chip away a whole mountain to possibly get something else from it. We seek value, we seek purpose in our lives, we seek fulfillment. We're not just for these drives. And I often find that depression is having disconnected from our drive, what we seek that brings us joy, because we've done what we thought we needed to do, and we abandoned ourselves in the process. We are biologically made to connect. And the reason I bring this up is because there's literally, when we hug somebody, trust hormones, feel-good hormones, oxytocin gets released. So we wouldn't release feel-good hormones if we weren't made for connection. That's one of the many reasons, but we literally build trust and feel safe when we're hugging. This quote says, many of us take better care of our cars than they do our own bodies. I don't like the last bit of it, but one of the things also that stood out to me is that we'll often talk about our bodies as my house, my car, my body, as if it's an object. But you are your body. And when we bring it closer, we get to build a new relationship with it. I wanted to add this about rules because I find it incredibly difficult, and I've been on this journey myself, with the burnout and everything that happened from it. You read one book and it's like, avoid carbs at all costs. The next book is carbs are king and they're amazing. And this book says this, parenting is the same, co-sleeping is this, or bottle feeding, or it's just contradictory information on the other. If you're looking for something, you'll find it, and it creates this constant state of stress. Should I be doing this? Should I be doing this? Should I be doing this? Where do I know what's right or what's wrong? And our beliefs play a very big role in how things respond to in our body. They did a study, for example, where they had participants drink milkshakes. And for the one group, they told them this is full cream, full fat, really hectic, you're going to pick up some weight milkshake. And for the other participants, they said it's like a fat burning, amazing milkshake that, you actually get lean. It's the exact same milkshakes. But the ones that they told was fat burning lost weight. They did other studies, for example, where people who'd broken their arms and they had casts, they would have one group of participants imagining they were doing reps and the other group not. And I can't remember the exact amount, but it's something like 21% increased muscle mass for the group that did the reps, that they had more muscle mass than the group that didn't. So our beliefs and our thoughts have a very big impact on how our body responds. And in this state of having so many contradictory beliefs out there, I wrote here non-distracted eating. Our bodies will tell us best. So if you're eating carbs that makes you feel horrible, then for a while, give it up and see if that changes. If you're eating it and you don't feel any different, then you're fine with it. If you're eating sugar and it feels horrible after half an hour, then give it up. So we start getting to have a conversation with our body and make the rules according to what makes us feel good, instead of according to what the books say. Movement is important. This doesn't mean gymming or exercising or, you know, following a diet like or a regime that somebody else put out for you, unless it feels good. But it's not as punishment. It's that moving the emotions, moving that energy. Our bodies are made for movement. Water, I just believe that water, because we're like so much percent, I think it's 70% water, our bodies need help to flush the system, and then nervous system regulation. Because like I said, you could be eating the most healthy food on the planet, and if your nervous system is in dire straits, you're not going to be absorbing the nutrients like you should be. Exercise is a celebration. I don't know who wrote that. I just saw it somewhere long ago and I wrote it on my phone. But exercise is a celebration of what your body can do, not a punishment for what you ate. This is something I saw on Instagram the other day. It was said highly processed foods has a high correlation with depression and anxiety, as much as 20%. So it is, I'm not saying that what we eat isn't important, but again, listening to your body, understanding. And what I find is way more stressful is if you're highly depressed and now you've got to try and make these healthy meal plans. Let's not start there. Let's maybe start with what can I do, whether it's walking. If I can walk around the house once today, perfect. Do it in baby steps. My ultimate goal for everybody that's here is to start to feel safe in their bodies. Start feeling at home in their bodies, to start realizing that, you know, this is such a beautiful place to be. Learn to connect with our bodies and have deep conversations that allows the past to shift, the present to be savored, and the future to be directed by God. So yesterday we spoke about spirit and, you know, what he shares. And I find that when we're in our bodies, it's so much more easier to tap into that experience. There was something. Oh, I was thinking this morning, because I got up super early to start working on these things for today. And I go on a Wednesday with a group of ladies for a walk. And this morning I was thinking, well, I really can't this morning. I've got so much to do. And I just felt this nudge of, so will you be staying because you want to stay, or will you be staying because you're scared you're going to run out of time? And I realized I was going to be scared I'm going to run out of time. And I said, well, then it's not a good enough reason. Making decisions based on love and not fear wherever possible. So connecting with my body and having that conversation of like, okay, so what should I do? You're really tired. Should I like rest? Should I go? Should I? Okay, love versus fear. And I went on the most beautiful walk. And it was really such a good breathing space. I keep talking about deep conversations, and there's a technique that I use that I cannot do with you guys. And there's another one that we'll be doing at the end, but it's a technique I can't do with you guys because it really brings up stuck emotions, and people don't always realize what it's going to come up when it comes up. They don't have to share it, but I still feel it's too vulnerable for a big group. So I'm not going to do it, but literally having conversations with sensations in our body. And my clients, like I've had doctors, engineers, the works, and they'll be like, what are you doing? Like, this will never work. And then when they're done, they're like, I can't believe that just came out. But it's pretty much like what it says, to start, instead of like, oh crap, my heart's feeling all racy again, or oh, you know, my back's acting up again, to start having a conversation. I've had conversations with headaches. And be like, oh, okay. I'm doing it again. I'm in my head of too much. I'm going to get into my body. Thank you. A lot of times my headaches go. So different ways to improve your vagus tone. Wim Hof, I don't know if you've heard of him. He's this guy that swims in the icy oceans, and there's like all the celebrities, it seems lately, is doing these like ice baths and things. My friends and I, before, you know, him, but every Friday we go swimming in the ocean here, and we've got a really cold ocean, and it's been winter. But if it's raining or sunshine and we go swimming, the only time we don't swim is if the swell's too dangerous. But it is such a crazy experience, because every time you do, your body first it's like you're numb, but you wish you were numb because it hurts so much. And then you don't want to get out the water. It's just this, like, we all just feel like in touch with ourselves again. We feel alive. We feel like we normally do it just before work, and we just want to stay there. It's such a beautiful moment. It really connects you with your body. But any cold compress and an ice pack, so if you're having a panic attack, if you're feeling really anxious, having some ice cold, an ice pack that you put on your wrists or on the back of your neck can help you to bring your awareness to your sensation. Because remember, when we're anxious or when we're having a panic attack or when we're having these sensations, pretty much our nervous system response is saying there's a lion, there's a threat, and our head is going off with all the possible worst case scenarios. And if it can't find one, it's going to say, well, you're going to embarrass yourself in front of all these people. And when we do the cold pack, or when we bring our awareness to the senses around us, we get ourselves out of our heads, out of that story our head's creating, and into, well, right now I'm actually quite okay. The sensation also makes you, because when we're really nervous or when we're anxious, we're holding our breath. Body awareness for me is so important, and to do it with curiosity, not with judgment. Ooh, my heart's racing. That's interesting. I wonder what's going on. My shoulders are so tight. I can really, that just changes the perspective and allows conversation. Exactly the same with our partners. If we go to them with, why are you like this now? They're not going to open the conversation. They say, ooh, is everything okay? You're frowning quite a bit. Is there anything I can help you with? We do that to our bodies, we get a conversation. Yoga, it's a beautiful way because it slows everything down. It brings our, you have to focus on the move. So it gets us out of our head, which is running away to what I should still be doing or what I need to be doing and all those other things. It gets you into your body. Deep breathing exercises, incredibly powerful. Like I said, the cold exposure brings it in that breath. But what they have found, one of the quickest ways to reset your vagus nerve is to breathe in. So you can count to 2 and breathe out to 4. And then eventually you can increase it to breathe in for 3, out for 6. Breathe in for 4, out for 8. You don't have to go more than that, but if you can get it to breathing in for 4, out for 8. But if in the beginning, all you can do is breathe in for 2 and out for 4, that's already great. It's not like, even if the doctors gave you a pill, it doesn't work instantly. It takes a little while. Breathing, it also takes a little while. It was the sweetest thing the other day. My daughter was crying about something, and my son came into the room and he whispered to her, I did that breathing thing Mom always talks about, and it really works. And I had such a laugh. It was so sweet to see at 6 years old. It was like, it really works. And now he's doing it more and more. They were scared about something, and I told him about it, and yeah, the fear went. I often think of that movie, I think it was Fight Club many years ago, but in the aeroplane, he's talking about the oxygen masks that came down. And he was saying that oxygen mask is because you can't have a plane full of panicked people. That breathing, and you're breathing in pure oxygen, calms everybody down. Laughing, like some days when I really, really had a rough time, I go onto TikTok. TikTok in the beginning is really intimidating and daunting and freak me out, but they quickly catch on to what sort of reels you like. And now, like, mine are mostly like either kids playing the fool or pets making mistakes, like just things that made me laugh. And so having 5 minutes or 10 minutes of just laughing, like belly laughs, is so good. Singing is brilliant. Dancing, connecting, cuddling your pet or person, hugging yourself. You can literally hug yourself and rock. It's part of some of the things we do to reparent ourselves. You can ask yourself, am I physically in danger right now? Or what does my soul know to be true about this? Is my soul worried about this? Is my spirit worried about this? I can go to a safe space. In my mind, I can imagine like, oh, there's this beautiful forest and a waterfall, and there's these buck walking around. Once you start visualizing, just like when you're in a dream, your body doesn't know if it's real or if it's just imagined. When we start going there and we increase our breathing, our body gets us out of that state as well. Using our senses is really effective. So going for a walk, and what do I see? What do I smell? Can I taste something? What do I feel? I can actually feel the floor, like my shoes are wearing out or whatever it is. I can feel the breeze in my face, or I can feel the sun's quite hot. Just bringing it to our senses, because it brings us into the moment, and in the moment you're not in physical danger. Somatic therapy, I find talk therapy is great, but it's got a limit. It still just deals with this. And somatic therapy is where we work with your body, where the emotions are, and having body conversations. Esther Perel, I'm a very big fan of hers. I do a lot of her training with regards to working with infidelity in relationships, but I really enjoyed this, where she says self-care isn't just about face masks and mindfulness, though those are great. It's about tuning into our bodies and letting them teach us what we like and what we don't like, and what we don't know about ourselves yet. There are so many ways to incorporate eroticism into our self-care plan, from integrating different types of touch, energy, exploring massages, etc. Befriending our bodies and making peace with them is the beginning of one of the best relationships we can ever have, the relationship with ourselves. And I firmly believe this. So to have a little exercise, this is
I think you're still muted.
Thank you so much. I think it's my office building, because I'm not normally here, but last night at exactly 7 o'clock it also went off. So I think that my office has an automatic get out of here system that switches off. But I do want to do a little exercise with you guys. So if you can, all of you just close your eyes for a moment. Take a couple of deep breaths. Just allowing yourself to feel your sensations in your body, whatever they may be. And then what I want you to do is find one sensation. Maybe your shoulders are a little bit tired or sore, or maybe your jaw's tight, or maybe, the seated, your buttocks is feeling sore. Maybe your legs are tired, whatever it is, just find a sensation in your body. And then I want you to just explore it as if you're a curious scientist. There's no judgment, there's no story to it, you're just being curious. So I want you to notice, where does it start? Where does it end? Is it moving? Is it still? Is it heavy? Is it light? Is it different around the edges than it is on the inside? Is it on the surface? Is it deeper in? And take some deep breaths, allowing that breath to fill into that sensation, not to get rid of it, but you've probably noticed that it's shifted, that it's less intense. Just making room for it without judgment. And after you've had a couple of nice deep breaths, just shifting your body, especially in that space, allowing yourself to notice the sensation. If it's changed, wonderful. If it hasn't, that's also perfect. We've just started a conversation with your body. And then whenever you're ready, bring your focus back to the room, and you can do this exercise at any time. This isn't something that, just one sensation and that's it. You can go to all the sensations. And when we do this, we're starting conversations with our body. And I can tell you with absolute truth, I've seen it over and over. When we start these conversations, there's so many of my clients tell me they desire intimate conversations with their partner. They wish their partner saw them. They wish their partner understood them better. They wish that there was more conversations about deep, meaningful things. And when we start these conversations with our body, we realize how much we haven't been seeing ourselves, how much we haven't been listening, how much we've been ignoring ourselves for the needs of others, how much we've been letting ourselves down. So it's a very powerful place to be. How are you all doing? You're welcome to unmute, ask questions, share anything.
Hi, Tahila.
Hi.
It's hi. For me personally, I have to be honest and say that when I did that exercise, I felt my body tell me that it's angry, that I haven't done in something right, that like I've been punishing it. I felt that. I felt sore everywhere. Yeah, I actually feel like I can cry. I felt, yeah, like I've neglected it. Like it's been saying, I've been talking to you and you haven't been listening.
And remember that anger is trying to protect you. So even though you think I did something wrong, it's just saying hello. And that's one of the first steps I find that moves us out of depression is getting angry. Because we're mobilizing where we were frozen. And so getting angry is saying, I'm worthy of protection. And your body's feeling relief. That's what it means to cry.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That took so much courage. And I really, really, really appreciate that. Anybody else that wants to share or ask something or I've got a comment here. My anger has always saved me from depression, but lately the anger is tiring me immensely. The tiring is from, it's not supposed to be protecting you all the time. So we're looking at the anger and not what it's protecting us from. So it's really important to go into what is it trying to protect me from? And having a discussion with those fears behind that so that it doesn't have to be on all the time, because it is exhausting to be in a mobilized state. If we're in there too long, then we go into the depression again. So we're back and forth. So to be able to have that conversation with, what are you trying to protect me from? And taking that deeper, preferably with somebody that can hold that space for you, but just to let you know. Awesome. The announcement that I had to make was about, I am launching, and I just want to find the slides again. I haven't made anything pretty for it. Like I said, this was all last minute, but last year I had a group of ladies, the most phenomenal group of ladies that ran with me. We did a women's group. So it was for a group of moms for 8 weeks. We actually did it then for 16 weeks. We did it every second week. But it's an 8-week program where we worked with getting back home to ourselves. So what we've been doing here, tomorrow I'm going to be sharing a lot more, but expanding on that. So weekly live calls, journal prompts that take it deeper, that really goes into, I think a lot of us struggle with trusting ourselves. People think let's work on confidence. Confidence is trusting my ability. And so working on the things that we think are fraud, the things that we're angry about, the things that we feel have disappointed ourselves, the places where we've let ourselves go in the sense of abandon ourselves to please others, and rebuilding that trust within ourselves. I'll share into it a lot more tomorrow again, but I really want you to start thinking about it if you wanted to. It's going to be a select small group of ladies that we get to take this further and to understand ourselves more as soul, body, and mind, so that we can really own the space we live in. So that was the announcement. And that's a wrap. That's what I wanted to share. I actually thought
thanks so much.
Such a pleasure. Thank you for sharing. Pleasure, Heather. If anybody wants to ask questions, welcome to. Otherwise, have the most beautiful day. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.